Hey, what's going on? Welcome to Built for the Stage podcast. This is Joe Roscoe, founder of Built for the Stage, Broadway's #1 fitness platform. If you haven't checked us out yet, go to the website builtforthestage.com, or you can go to our Instagram at Built for the Stage. Special thanks to our host, Broadway Podcast Network. Make sure to check them out at bpn.fm. All right, let's get on to our special guest. I'm excited for this. It's been a while. I don't think I've recorded an interview in months. We've been away for a bit. I don't know, taking a holiday or just I don't know, we fell off a bit, but we're back and we're back better than ever because we have an exciting guest who's actually starring in The Time Traveler's Wife right now on the West End, playing the lead character of Claire. Saw this movie, thinking like 2007 or 8, and probably remember a few tears shed on the couch. It's quite the tearjerker. I go back to London in about a week or so, and I can't wait to see the show. Just got a little bit of time left, so if you haven't seen it, make sure you hop on over if you're in London. Our guest has also been in Pretty Woman on the West End, The Life, Beautiful, The Hurly Burly Show. I'm interested in that one. I want to talk about that one. All right, let's bring on our guest, Joanna Woodward.
Oh, hi. Hey,
Hi,
thanks for having
Joanna.
me.
Thanks so much for joining me. Happy Tuesday.
Tuesday.
How do you start off your day usually on a show day? What's
Oh,
that look
well, I've
what's
got
that look
two
like?
kids, so I start my day much earlier than I would like to. Um, yeah, they usually wake me up between 6:30 and 7:30, and then depending on whether my husband can do breakfast and stuff, whether I get a little bit more time in bed or I have to get up and get on with it is usually the case. Um,
Right.
yeah. So
Uh,
yeah,
w
so I just wake up and I try and definitely need some coffee and some breakfast, and then yeah, sometimes in the day I get to go back to sleep if they're at school or preschool or whatever. So
Sure, sure. Yeah, quick turnaround for you getting home late from the theater and then having to wake up at 6 AM. That's,
yeah, and it's tough because this role is tough, and there's like 30 something costume changes. So despite it not being dancey in the slightest, I'm just like running constantly and
yeah.
pulling on and off clothes. So yeah, so I'm quite tired, but as you said, 6 weeks left. So yeah, so
Yeah.
and
Okay,
excited.
so out of that time when you're off the stage, would you say most of it is change like how much time are you actually in your dressing room just chilling
Oh,
as
never,
opposed to just
never, not at
okay, so
all.
you're just you're either on the stage or you're running off the stage to change clothes, basically.
Yeah, yeah. So I got our dance captain to like have a look at how much I was doing backstage the other day, and he was like, you don't stop running. You just don't."
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's quite small backstage, so you're just sort of like running and darting through little corridors and back onto the other side. So
Right. We need to get one of the step trackers on you. Maybe like
honestly, I was like, "How many steps do you reckon it is?" And he was like about 8,000 steps to show just from running around.
wow.
Um,
Yeah, so 2 times a day, there's 16,000. Then in your normal life,
for the
you're definitely
children and working
right.
out.
You're racking up over 20,000 steps a day over there.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, Tell us a little bit about the process of, it's a new show, and when you joined it, like, were you in the workshop phase? Like, tell us about that whole beginning to where we're at right now.
So I do think they had a couple workshops. Or I know they had a couple workshops. I wasn't involved in those, and they kind of happened over the pandemic. So I think some were in person and some were on Zoom and all of that. And then last year, they went to do a 2.5 week tryout in Chester, which is in the north of England. So it was like 15 shows. That was it. And we didn't know if we had a West End transfer. But yeah, I got brought on board for that. And because it's a new show, it was just like, it was crazy what we got done. It was rewrites every second and then 15 shows. And both me and David, who plays Henry, got so sick afterwards because I just think like it was full on. And then it was done. And
Mm,
then so we finished, I think, around Halloween, and then we didn't know until January that it was coming to the West End, and then it wasn't coming to the West End until fall. Um, yeah, so it's been a long process, and we recorded the album in that time. and lots of other like little gigs and things. So it's been quite the journey, and amazing to do it from the start and create it from, well, kind of from scratch. Like, you know, there's a pretty hefty source material there in the book, and the film. Though I haven't watched the film. I've decided I'm
Huh.
going to. I decided I'm going to now. But yeah, the book is obviously amazing.
Yeah, I like that. When I was acting, I would try to like shy away from seeing other things, so it
Yeah.
didn't quite influence me to do what maybe was inside that I was thinking that the character would be.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, uh, the character is so, mm, I guess, broad in the sense of the time that is, uh, traveled, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how has that been with like being one character, but obviously goes through a transformation of different
Yeah.
phases of who they are. What
Yeah.
was that? What was that like? If it was any different than any other role that you might have played in the past, or yeah,
Yeah, I think I covered Carol King in Beautiful, and I think that was like quite a huge age range in that as well,
y-
but it was all chronological. Whereas with this, we have younger actresses playing me as a child, but then I do sort of 15 to 40,
yeah,
and but it's not in order. So that's a challenge because, as I said, running around changing, then running on stage and being like a different age, a different part. But I think the script really helps with that. Like Lauren Gunderson, um, her script just places me in the right moment, and the different ages are represented really well. I definitely feel the difference between sort of 21-year-old aspiring artist who's just met Henry for the first time in years to like grieving 40-year-old Claire who's a mother. It's yeah, it's amazing. And sometimes I start the show and I don't really know how I'm going to end up at the end, but I always do. So it happens somewhere
huh?
along there.
I like that. I like that. Just to like parallel that to fitness, I was just talking to my clients about you just show up
Hmm.
and how you end is how you end, but most of the time you're going to be feeling better than when you started. So
Absolutely.
that's interesting that you still have that those thoughts. Like
Yeah.
you've been doing the show for a long time, but there's still that freshness to it of let's see how this one's going to go.
Yeah, I guess like, yeah, because it's one of those shows where once you get on, you're on. And like a workout, or you know, I do a lot of like yoga with Adrian, and she's always like the hardest bit is just getting on the mat. And it's so true because once you're there and you're committed and you're doing it, you're going to get to the end, hopefully.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's quite a good lesson in discipline and persistence and consistency, I think. So,
Okay, very cool. I'm just
mm.
writing that timestamp down because that was a bit of gold there that I like to
Ah.
say. Um, so before we hop off the time traveler's wife train here, why should someone rush to see the show before it's over, or why should someone be looking forward to this if it transfers to Broadway?
Mm.
What's the life, the soul of this show that you know gets people that they should be in the seats seeing the show?
Well, I mean, it's a beautiful piece because it is epic in terms of the effects and the design and the illusions, and all of that are quite a spectacle to see. But actually, the story itself is so, it's just an intimate love story that spans the ages. And though it is technically sci-fi, it's incredibly human and heartfelt and emotive and affecting. And I think you just fall in love with Henry and Claire, and you just get swept away on their journey. And it is about loss, which is heartbreaking, but it's also about hope through that and after that, and what we can come to terms with through grief. So it's very
Mhm.
beautiful. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, I kind of assumed is it slated to go to the Broadway? Do you
I
know?
mean,
Have
let's put that out there. I think it would do
Absolutely.
really well on Broadway. In fact, any Americans we've had in have absolutely adored it. And our scriptwriter is American, and yeah, the script is very American, I think. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's very
Okay.
fun, funny.
I actually wanted to tell you, being in the fitness world, I also dabble in like a CrossFit business, and
Oh yeah.
this one girl from Miami, just elite athlete, just like an athlete's athlete. We'll just say it like that.
Yeah.
Not an artist, not a like I love not that at all, at all.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
she went to London on a solo trip, and one day she was just like, "What do I do? What do I do?" So she went to the theater
No way.
and she saw Time Traveler's Wife and
Yay.
loved it and loved
Oh,
it. She was
good.
like, you know, sometimes in the athletic world, she they have perceptions of what the arts and theater and all
Yeah.
of this is. So
Yeah.
she was like, "Yeah, I, you know, usually I it was her first like show ever. I didn't mention that. Like
Wow.
for so she was so like a
Yeah.
kid lit up talking about it and how cool just the whole element of stage
That's
theater
so
works.
cool.
So yeah.
I had a whole group of my gym ladies come together, and they were all sobbing their eyes out. And it was really nice to see
Oh,
them like not in activewear. That was just like,
right, right. Yeah, I see people on the street sometimes for the first time that I only see in the gym, and I don't recognize them. I'm like, who are?
yeah.
Oh, I didn't
Oh.
recognize you in normal clothes. All right, so rewinding to your like maybe childhood or younger self. When did theater come into play? Was this a I'm going to be an actress from day one, or what was the evolution of you getting into this profession?
Legend has it, I told my mother at the age of 3 years old that I was going to move to London and be an actor. So
Okay.
I don't know how true that is. But apparently, yeah, apparently because I grew up in Somerset, which is in the south of England, it's the countryside. And it was a very quiet existence. Though I grew up in Glastonbury, so you must have heard of Glastonbury Festival. So it was very music oriented, and it's very spiritual down there and artistic. So it had all those influences running through it. But I was like, I'm going to London, and I'm going to. Well, actually, I wanted to be Britain's answer to Britney Spears. That was probably my first ambition. That didn't quite happen, and in hindsight, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, then I just sort of did all the local stuff and local shows, and then applied for drama schools and moved to London. Literally turned 18, moved to London a week later, um, and yeah, went from there. Really went to Central School of Speech and Drama,
Mhm. And
and
okay, so once you went to school and you were done, did they roll out the red carpet and you just started booking everything, or what was
yeah.
your story like?
So I graduated in 2009, which was like a credit crunch here, and 0 agents came to our showcases, and there was no work. Um, so I like talking to people about this because I think it wasn't as bad, but it was pretty similar to the pandemic with graduates struggling to find agents and work then. And I did get an agent, but she was a local to back home agent, and she couldn't get me into any of the auditions for big musicals. So I was just writing to everybody constantly, doing every job I could to pay my rent, um, and then yeah, and then eventually, I got little jobs, and I did pantomimes, and I did sort of unpaid fringe work alongside all my endless jobs, and then eventually, I got the role of Audrey in Little Shop of Horrors in a regional theatre, and from that, I then wrote to every agent of every client that was in the show, and from that, suddenly had 3 agent offers, and that's kind of when I was able to stop writing and calling everyone and go, okay, this agent could get me my auditions now. So that was a real turning point. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so it was definitely an uphill struggle from drama school to get the work. And alongside that, I like fell into a burlesque club and ended up becoming a burlesque host and singer, which has sort of seen me along my unemployed times and been
Uh,
wonderful open arms every time I come back from a job. Um,
yeah.
yeah,
I love that. Like just the story of going above and beyond, looking up every agent that was representing someone in your cast, like
yeah,
just making your own way, making your own destiny. There's no window, there's no door, so you just kind of
yeah.
run through the wall. Just make it happen.
Absolutely. Because I think, like, especially for younger kids to hear, I think they probably go to talks with all these super successful actors that, for example, Kit Harington was like the year above me at drama school. And, you talk to him, and yeah, he walked straight into the National Theatre, and then he walked straight into Game of Thrones. And I'm sure he had struggles along the way. Of course he did. But hearing those stories is less realistic than hearing the endless struggle of like having to keep pursuing and pushing for it, and checking in with yourself constantly about if it's really what you want and which direction you want to go in. um
Yeah.
yeah.
Tell us about when you were in this show, The Hurly Burly, and
Yeah.
what is this all about?
So
This
that
I
was a burlesque review brought
Okay.
brought to the stage by Kylie Minogue's team. Basically, Kylie wasn't involved, though she came and watched and was lovely. But it was Kylie Minogue's team, um, and Polly Ray, who was a famous burlesquer here in the UK. And yeah, as I said, I was sort of singing in all these clubs and everything, and then just walked into this audition one day and ended up hosting. So that was my first West End gig, but it wasn't a musical, so it was quite strange that ended up hosting this big burlesque show. And yeah, body confidence was like a thing, and a struggle to get through. But um, yeah, it was a mixed experience, that one. It brought with it
Mm,
so many challenges, but also the confidence to stand out on stage and host to however many people was something I never thought I would have done. But it's that
yeah.
classic thing of like being a waitress full time essentially and going, I could do that, I can do that, and
Mm.
doing it.
Yeah, yeah. When along your career, when did you first become a mother during your career?
So my eldest is 6 now.
Okay.
So um,
So that's around the
yeah,
life, or were
I
you
was
in the life
pregnant
yet?
on the life. Yeah, well done. You knew that more than me. Yeah, I was early pregnant on the life. Yeah,
Okay.
and
So,
then I
yeah,
had the baby. Yeah, and then I struggled to get a job really after that. And Pretty Woman was my next big job after that. And then of course the pandemic happened. So it's been a
mhm,
kind of crazy few years.
yeah.
Yeah.
I have a good friend, Christine Corner Smith. She's in Chicago here, and she's about to be a mom. And I have a handful of other lady friends that are new moms in the theater industry. So I definitely wanted to bring this topic up of
Yeah.
just if you had any wisdom or insight or experiences of like how to quote unquote make this work or
Yeah.
or make it the best that it can be in this challenging industry while also being a mom.
Oh yeah. I mean, I have tons. I mean, I get messages quite a lot from other mums who are trying to think about going back to work post babies, and a big thing is just like, yeah, how do you do it? When do you know if you're ready and all of this? And I just think the main thing is that everybody is absolutely different, and pregnancy and motherhood and everything affects everybody differently. And some people want to get back to work the following week. I've got a friend, Danielle Steers, who's just like, she's got like a 6-week-old baby and she's opening a new musical this week, and she's smashing that. And then, you know, there are people that take off 2, 5, 10 years, and equally for them, I go, the industry will hopefully always be here, you know, when you're ready to come back.
Mm,
But yeah, I think the anticipation is always worse than actually going back to work.
mm,
It's really hard, but mothers are like superheroes, and you just get it done. But my main tip is probably that making sure that you have time for yourself somehow is mega important, and that going to work and doing something that makes you feel alive and like yourself will always make you come home and be a better mother than if you were just sat at home wishing you were auditioning for a show but feel you should stay with your baby. So I think, yeah,
yeah,
it's really, you know, our jobs are really full on when they're really full on. And then when they're not, they're not. So I always think, like with my second child, I went back to Pretty Woman at 3 months, and I stayed for a few months and it was crazy. But then following that, I had 6 months off. So I kind of just had my maternity leave a bit later than
yeah.
normal. And yeah, but yeah.
Nice. As we wrap up the conversation, I wanted to talk about how, you know, the closing of the show is nearing, and you've been in plenty of shows where closings have happened or you exit the show. Now that you're with your experience, I'll say in this situation, how do you approach the end? How do you make the best of it? How do you try to set yourself up to be mentally healthy when it's done?
Mm.
Because from my experience and all of clients and friends, like there's a bit of like loss
Oh
that
yeah,
that goes with it, but also celebration. So just wanted
yeah.
to ask, along the years, how has that maybe adapted for you, or how you kind of mentally approach the end of the show?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really tough one to finish because it's quite an emotional show, as I've said. Um, but I've already started thinking about how I want to approach it and just being really grateful for every show now. But I've already started planning ahead to think about what I'm going to do post the show finishing and things that when you're doing 8 shows a week, you don't have time for. Like, I love going to the gym and doing like kind of CrossFit classes, like flipping tires and stuff. And I just haven't been able to do that because I'm exhausted. You know, I can get one, maybe two workouts in a week. If I get three in a week, then I regret it because it's just a mess by Saturday evening, or I
Yeah,
am.
yeah.
So yeah, like looking forward to like, right, well, I can go to the gym 6 days a week soon and see my buddies there, and I can spend more time with the kids, and maybe I can do some writing, and always just giving myself grace that there will definitely be a week where I feel very discombobulated and at a loss and probably want to sit on the sofa and watch movies and eat crisps, and that's fine too because
Right, right.
everything moves. Yeah.
What's your I wasn't gonna ask this, but what's your crisp of choice? Everyone in America.
Usually I do, like crisps come up. I don't know what it is. I need to be sponsored by crisps.
Right?
I don't know. It's too hard to say. I like a rogue random flavor, but if you were to ask me to live off one crisp for the rest of time, it would probably be like a cheese Dorito, which
Okay.
I don't know.
I love that, I love that.
They've
Everyone from
always stuck
America.
by me through the years. They've always been there.
Yeah. Everyone that's listening from America, a crisp is a potato chip, if you
Yeah,
don't know. It's a potato chip.
yeah.
So, okay, well, just like I planned it, we're gonna end our conversation with that topic of crisps, what your favorite crisp was. So thanks so much, Joanna, for being on the show, and I can't wait to see it. And yeah, everyone, if you're in London, check it out. And if not, I guess just be on the lookout for it hopping over the pond, hopefully to good old Broadway. Joanna, thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Joanna Woodward, lovely, as they say over there in London. What a nice gal. First time getting to chat with Joanna ever. So excited to go see the show. Also, I'm sure she probably says her name Joanna, and I'm just being American and saying it with a flat A. So I apologize to you back there backstage, Joanna. Joe Roscoe here, Built for the Stage. Check us out, builtforthestage.com. You can do a free 2-week program with me where I personally coach you on an online fitness app from anywhere in the world. All right, actors or athletes, train like one. Later.